Hello, this will be a short video on how to leverage Apptivo's Invoices app to help get your customers to pay invoices on time. So what we're going to do is, in this video, we're just going to talk about a couple quick topics where basically we've got some high-level factors that might influence when a customer would pay an invoice. And what we have is we have several features inside of Apptivo that help you go and configure these and support these processes to just ensure that you receive a higher payment rate. So what we want to do is really just want to kind of go and help out, because there's a lot of customers out there sending invoices, and it's a major problem for different kinds of companies as far as when a customer pays, if they're paying on time or not. Especially for younger companies with cash flow issues, getting paid on time when originally planned is very important to business operations. So what we've implemented is several tools that are just going to allow you to increase the probability that a customer will come and pay an invoice on time. Of course, there's nothing that's going to replace just having good follow-ups, good relationships and such, but we'll at least talk about some things that you might be able to adjust about your process to help increase these metrics. So when we look at kind of the factors that would influence why or when a customer would pay, like if they don't pay or if they pay late, why is it happening? We have kind of 6 high-level things that we want to talk about right here. So the first one is just, when is the invoice delivered? So are you sending it immediately after the project's complete? Are you sending it at 3 in the morning, or are you sending it right when they get into the office in the morning? And is that person actually going to receive it? Are they on vacation or not? So just the whole concept of when that invoice hits the person who needs to pay it, is it at the optimal time? Then the next one is, well, who is that person? Where is this invoice going? Are we sending it to the proper contact, or are we sending it to somebody who then forwards it along to another person, et cetera, et cetera? Because all that can help reduce the probability if we're not getting it to the right person. And then down to what the invoice looks like. So especially in some companies, like let's say you're doing weddings or you're doing designs, the look and feel of that invoice actually can play a large factor in how they're going to pay it, or if they're going to pay it on time, or whether they're going to try to negotiate. So presenting the invoice properly for your type of customer and for the type of service or product you're delivering is also very important. Then what the invoice or how easy it is to pay. So an issue could be that they brought up the invoice, they had the intention of paying, but then they saw that they had to go sign up for an account and go run through 20 steps. So they just stopped and didn't bother with it. So are you making it extremely simple for the customer to figure out how to pay? So when they make the decision to pay, there's no barriers in between them actually going through and completing that payment to you. Then there's more on the other side of things, which is really just on your side. So how often do you follow up? Are we contacting them? What's the standard method for reaching out and asking customers to pay? And then on the last side, what happens if they don't pay? Do you have any policies in place that would, encourage the customer to be paying their invoices on time? So these are kind of the major topics that we're going to run through. And really what I want to do is I just want to kind of show you a matching feature that supports each one of these to give you a feel for what you can go and configure inside of Apptivo. Okay, so here we've got those same 6 points, but I've just kind of listed a quick high-level feature. So what we'll do here is we'll just talk about it a little bit more in depth on each point. I'll go run in, I'll show you just a couple quick examples of that feature configured inside of Apptivo. And yeah, if you like any further details, of course, each one of these has a full write-up and description on it out on the Apptivo website. So as far as this first one, when the invoice is first delivered, there's a couple ways that you can control this. So one is we actually have a recurring invoices feature, where in some cases, like you're doing monthly billing, and when you go and send that invoice is quite important. So do I send it on the 1st of the month, the 3rd of the month, whatever it might be. So inside of Apptivo, if we hop into our app right here, you can create a recurring invoice, or we actually have a subscription style payment too. And then there's the ability to go and select the frequency and the email template that's sent out. So that way you can properly make sure that things are going out on when you need them to. Otherwise, you have all these other interconnections and activities. So let's say if you're using the project management to generate invoices, you can have a reminder in the project to say, well, when the project's done, I need to generate an invoice at a particular time. Or even saying that I don't want to send invoices on Friday because customers are less likely to pay them then. So I'd rather wait and send an invoice on a Monday or Tuesday for better success, because the first time they see it is the best possible time for them to pay it, rather than counting on them to see it in their inbox and then remember later on to come back to it. So in that example, what I could do is I could actually just go put a reminder for myself to go and send this invoice on Monday. So just a couple different little tools to help you on that side, but the idea is just make sure that we're sending them out at the right time. And then talking about who it's being delivered to. So this one's pretty straightforward. It's just you should know all the contacts and getting feedback from the customers when you've reached out to them of, is this going to the right place? If you hear them giving you statements like, oh, I've sent it along to another team, maybe just ask if they would prefer to have it sent directly to the other team. So that's always an option. And then when you're selecting an invoice in here, you'll notice when drafting an invoice, you're able to type in a customer name first, and then the appropriate contacts would pop up. One option you have is you could go and put in different information. So you'll see we have billing information or billing address and shipping address. It is possible to add another contact field here specifically for like a billing contact that becomes automatically filled in. Whereas here you can select, so you're counting on the user to complete it. Just like sales rep is automatically filled in based on the customer record, you could automatically pull over a billing contact from the customer and make it appear here. So that way you just make sure that every time you send it, it's going out to the right person just by selecting the appropriate customer. Then there is what the invoice looks like. So this is actually, there's a couple components of the experience of a customer when you're thinking about how they receive an invoice. So if you send it via mail, it's okay, well, what does your envelope look like? You've printed out, how did you fold up the invoice and send it out? Everything like that. Versus if you email, it's okay, well, what is the email message? What's in the subject line? Now, how does the attachment look? Everything like that will affect it. But on the core of these, there's the PDF file we generate of each invoice and how it's presented. So that's where you can come in and adding in images and such, and rearranging and removing attributes that are not relevant in all scenarios is very good, especially if you're an organization who does like many different types of services, where potentially, depending on the type of deal, you want to send a different format of invoice. That's where you can come in. You can create mini templates. So you use a template that you think is most effective in that example. And then each template can be fully customized. So here I can come through and I can remove additional fields. Like if I'm only billing in one currency, I can just hide that stuff away from them, keep the experience a little bit more simple. You can also go add in additional text and just kind of being aware of, a lot of time you'll be working with your legal team. They'll come in, they'll want you to put a lot of legal text down here. Just being aware of how that impacts how the customer feels about your invoice. When you're looking through an invoice and it looks incredibly complex and is 30 pages long, sure, that fits in some scenarios, but a lot of the time that's going to just trigger red flags and it's going to cause that invoice to get paid slower because they have to analyze and make sure that they understand everything. So just doing your best to keep the whole layout as simple as possible will definitely help your chances of getting that invoice paid on time. Just be careful not to exclude so much detail that it causes more questions, which would once again delay the payment of the invoice. So controlling the look and feel inside of the template itself, but then also if you're sending out the email. So what does the email message I'm saying look like? And in this case, should I have multiple different email templates stored for sending out to different customers? So just going through these kind of decisions and taking on a constant environment of kind of sending out, looking and learning, reporting on how you're performing, and then making some adjustments is definitely the way you want to look at that one. Okay, so there's going through, changing the look and feel of everything. And then there is how easy is it to pay? So when you go through and we actually go send one of these invoices out, so we'll draft up an invoice and shoot it out to a customer. So when they're looking at this, how do they pay it? So right here, like just by default, Apptivo is going to embed buttons to make a payment immediately. If they go on this web page, just making sure that you're giving them all their options. So there's a couple big things, which is, depending on what type of methods you accept, some of them can be online and integrated, which you should absolutely do if possible. So for example, if you do accept PayPal, putting the buttons right in here so they can pay with their own account, get through the process easily. And then also, if you have other methods like manual methods like checks, or if you need them to do bank transfers, ensuring that you give as much information as possible right here. So if they need an account number, a SWIFT number, IBAN, etc. to do a transfer to you, include that within the invoice so they don't have to ask you a question about it. And then the other aspect is just part of making it easy is accepting payments in the way that your customers want to pay. So giving them all possible options that you can feasibly support as a business is going to make it easier and more common for these invoices to get paid on time. Basically what you're doing here is you're just trying to battle down the number of reasons that a person might not immediately pay that invoice when they see it the first time. Nothing you can do to eliminate that entirely, but a lot of these little changes will just increase your probability of them looking at it, saying that looks great, pressing the payment button, and completing it all in one shot. Okay, so then the other two parts, this is more kind of the invoice has gone out. Now, what am I going to do with it over time if it goes overdue or right about before it's supposed to go overdue? So a big part of this is just following up. Calling the customer, emailing them, asking them what's going on, just making sure that they're aware that the invoice is overdue. I mean, a lot of times simply they are not aware that the invoice expired, they totally forgot, and they'll pay it as soon as you let them know. Some people have other reasons, and maybe reaching out is going to trigger them to tell you why they might not be paying that invoice. But what we have in Apptivo is an automatic reminders feature that you can perform. So just like a moment ago when we said you could schedule a task to call a customer later on or send the invoice later on, absolutely, you can go and schedule it. So if I have a meeting set up to discuss this invoice because they had some discrepancies, I can come in and I can put my reminders in right here to go and follow up with them. I can record my phone calls directly from here, so I can take notes each time I speak with them to say why they were holding back, anything like that. And then what you have is an automatic system where inside of the settings area, we can actually come through, inside of invoices, and you can write rules. So what I can say is when an invoice goes 7 days overdue, send a certain email template. When it goes 20 days overdue, send a different email template. And the system can either automatically send them for you or queue them up on your behalf. So you can come out and write your own rules, such as once it is just going past due, basically the day of, go grab basically just resend the invoice one time. So you can set up those sorts of options, get all of your reminders in order. And then for our last one, what happens to a customer if they don't pay? So in this example, we have one feature called delay terms, which allows you to automatically apply penalties when an invoice goes overdue. So this is a common practice in business. Some will actually give rewards for paying early, which is another thing that you can look at doing. But the idea here is you're just saying, if I put you on a net 30 and you pay me on day 40, I'm going to increase the base cost of your invoice. Basically just cost, it's almost like a financing type charge. So in that case, inside of our Invoices app, under the payment section, we have delay terms. And I just have a simple term of adding a 1% fee each day that it's late. And what I'll do is I will charge up to a maximum of 15%. So you can write several different terms here. You can allow overrides from the users, and you'll see that I can just apply like a flat rate, and I can do weekly or monthly, increase on whatever frequency I want. But you can write these rules and make sure that you communicate the rules in a friendly manner so your customers are aware that there is a consequence if they don't pay their invoices on time. Okay, so that's going to be it for this short session. All the features that we showed today, you can definitely find more information on the support section of Apptivo, or absolutely, if you'd like a further demo on any one of these, or if you'd like to just figure out how to do it on your own, reach out to either sales@Apptivo or support@apptivo.com, and we'll be happy to help. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.